Last year, Jim was helping us build a wall in our home. I always got into conversations with Jim because he's the kind of builder who loves cups of tea and enjoys taking his time. So during one of our impromptu reflections, Jim began to lament about the state of our youth in the country. He'd seen enough news headlines, heard enough stories, and experienced enough dissent to genuinely make the comment that he was glad to be old because he didn't want to be around for the future. I dutifully told him, "Jim, you're not old," and then went on to sow a different vision. I had to cut my passionate speech to him short, leaving Jim slightly bemused, screwdriver in hand, because over 100 young leaders were about to arrive for one of our young leaders' conferences in this very room, with a keen expectation to live out that very different vision. A couple of years ago, the Centre for Social Justice published a report called Breakdown Britain. In almost every international league table, the UK came bottom or close to bottom. British teenagers, we were told, drink more, learn less, have sex earlier than in most other European countries, and are more likely to suffer from mental illness. Anyone doubting that Britain is broken need only look at the rising numbers of ASBOs and young offenders, or hear increasingly regular stories like that of Muggerland Sutherland, 43 years old, from Rochdale, who was beaten to death after apparently refusing to give a group of youths a light for a cigarette. Stories like that have led to phrases like broken Britain. A leading politician recently said, "The biggest challenge facing Britain today is mending our broken society." It's our responsibility to mend this broken society. Is our nation consistently producing innovative, creative, characterful young people set for the challenge of leading us into a better future? There are pockets of potential, but there are vast caverns of evidence that cause grave worry and concern. If you have any intention of changing the future, you have to ask what happened in the past and what are we doing about it today? As a nation, I believe that we are not doing enough to equip this rising generation for a world that seems to be getting bleaker. Ground has been lost. But we don't believe it's too late to take it back. We're already working to make today brighter so that the tomorrow is positively glowing, not glooming. Speak to anyone involved in Onelife, and they will tell you that the walls really are being rebuilt. Only 1 year in, and hope is in our hearts. Significant moments in history are defined by leadership. The capacity of individuals who understand that it is their time to step up and influence. Your potential to bring transformation in any context lies in your ability to influence. Leadership is influence. Leaders make a difference. Leaders enable change. Leaders shape the future. Leaders step up and go where others fear to tread. Leaders make or break. And so Onelife has been established. After years of experience in leadership and Christian youth ministry, realizing that leaders are not just born, but that we must intentionally encourage and raise up a wave of young leaders who will carry the capacity to transform the nation at every level of society. You can build a leader-rich culture, full of individuals who will be like your greatest role model on their very best day. Young leaders who will grow up connected and encouraging one another, defined by a depth of character that just isn't being taught anywhere anymore. Who will dare to take responsibility and stand the test of time to build the better future that all of us long to see. Leaders with an integrity that won't allow for scandals, whose values will inspire the best in the next generation, and whose commitment will leave a legacy way beyond their lifetime. The fact is that there are very few In fact, we are yet to come across any organizations working solely with a focus on leadership training for 14 to 21-year-olds in the UK, which seems unbelievable when you understand the vital role that leadership plays in the successes and failures of any society. So lacking has the leadership training been that we are working with more and more youth leaders to help them catch up. Only this week, Sarah and I had a youth leader from Edinburgh, a minister there, staying with us, who's crying out for what Onelife is set to bring to Scotland. His degree in youth work had taught him management, but now that he faces the real world, he wishes that someone had taught him leadership. Onelife aims to be the Rolls-Royce of leadership development for teenagers. It won't be without its struggles and its failures, its disappointments, and even false starts. But it will be with grit and determination, with a commitment to press through the lows to see the hope of the highs fully realized. And it will be with excellence, doing things heaven's way, so that the whole process gives life to the end result. Onelife is focused on giving young people the best platform possible to become part of a connected movement of significant influences for good. I'd like to introduce you to another young leader who's here this evening called Yanah, and she's going to come. She's been involved with Onelife since it began and before, when we were doing young leaders conferences, before we became our own organisation. And so please welcome Yanah to come and share something of her story as well. Wherever she is, there she is. Okay.
Hello. The leadership I have experienced so far in my life has served to teach me how little I know. The further on I go as a leader, the more I discover how far I've yet to travel. I've led in a number of different circumstances, both in and out of the church, with children and with peers. And in every situation, there have been moments when I don't know what to do or what to say. These have been some of the most shaping moments of my life, because my faith, my ideas, and my abilities can no longer be passive or idle. I had to do something. I had to meet a challenge that I simply couldn't pass over to someone else. Leadership has provoked responses from me that have surprised me. Onelife has been a significant part of my leadership development, especially in the last year. Spending time outside my comfort zone has meant that I have learned more than I have in a long time. I was involved in the Young Leaders conferences here in February, where I was asked to lead one of the seminars, but was given no topic at all and left to decide on one on my own, which for me was difficult because the vast number of possibilities was daunting. I would have loved Pete to just send me a little email with a couple of options, but as it was, the main decision was mine, and I had to really think it through myself, pray about it seriously, and ask God about it. More and more, I'm discovering that this is what leadership forces me to do. Really think through it myself, pray about it seriously, talk with God about it, and share it. In the end, I made a decision and really enjoyed the whole experience. I think I made the right choice. I had a funny moment later in the year, though, when at a summer conference, I bumped into a guy who had been to the conferences. We reintroduced ourselves, and he said, "Oh, you did one of the seminars, didn't you?" And I said, yeah, I did. And he said, "Oh, yeah, I went to it. Yeah, I went. It was about..." And I was like, oh, here it is, the real test. You know, it's 6 months on, has he remembered anything that I said? And he said, "Oh, it was about this." And I said, yeah, that's what it was about, when it hadn't been about that. I'd mentioned that, but it had no way been the main topic. And I thought, oh man, I've failed somehow. But at the same time, I realized that this in no way meant failure. This guy had remembered something that I'd said and carried it with him. It made a difference for him. Like I said, I am becoming increasingly aware of how far I've yet to go in the world of good leadership. One thing I am glad of, that the challenges and the discomforts have not yet succeeded in frightening me away from being a leader. I believe it is something that Jesus has asked me to do. I want to see people walk in the fullness of their potential. My hope and my prayer is that one day I will be the kind of leader who is invisible, who with humility and courage seeks not to be big, but to be small. a transparent leader who doesn't throw things in the way or muddy the waters. I want to be a leader who doesn't let their people get too comfortable, but calls them onward and upward, who doesn't use their people for personal glory. I want to be a leader who serves. As far as it is possible, I do not want a name for myself, but only for the one who I follow. This is my hope for this, my one life.
Do you remember when someone first gave you responsibility? When someone first demonstrated a belief that you had something to contribute? Maybe that was great and launched you into what you find yourself doing today. Maybe you wish you'd been better resourced. I wish I had been. Maybe it's never happened for you. And somewhere deep inside is a lingering feeling of missed opportunity, and could there be more? Our vision at One Life is to raise up transformational leaders, one by one, investing in individuals and seeing what one life, just one life, can do. It's already happening. We are working with hundreds of teenagers and channeling their energy in the right way. With just one life, Joel, he's 21, you saw him in the video. He's pursuing a vision to save 1 million African lives from AIDS by 2015. A vision that he is mobilizing a team of students to make happen. And it's such an impressive plan that Tear Fund, a relief and a development organization, are presently testing the idea to see if his concepts can be their lead campaign for the next 5 years. With just one life, Katie, 16 years old, an unlikely candidate, plans to establish a fresh initiative to help combat homelessness on the streets of London. It's happening in people like Josh, a 17-year-old teenager who was just going about life, pushing through like most 17-year-old lads do, until he came to a conference last February. He's now in one of our learning communities, and he's taking the relational and character development seriously and picking up the initiative to recognize his potential and lead in his local environment. We have no shortage of people who need to be led, but we do have a shortage of those who will lead well. And at One Life, we want to keep pouring into this vision. If every one of us in this room gave the cost of just one decent bottle of wine each month for a year, between us we could support 15 young leaders through a One Life learning community, give 20 grants to young leaders across the country to set up fresh initiative programs, provide 25 bursaries for under-resourced young leaders to attend young leaders conferences like this chap from Peckham, host 2 young leaders conferences in Uganda, catering for over 600 leaders out there, train and release associates right across the UK, and maintain and innovate our website to invest in the growing momentum of One Life. We want to ask if you would consider partnering with us to make this happen. Imagine being part and instrumental in transforming the UK, in inspiring young leaders to fulfill their potential, to be the best that they can be and draw the best out of those around them. For behind every young leader are dozens of others that they are already influencing. At One Life, we have a dream. And it's a dream that in 20 years, the whole of the UK will be populated with strong, godly, character-full, inspirational men and women who are leading in their fields, who are leading in government, education, media, healthcare, public services, businesses, churches, in every sphere of society, making an incredible difference. How will One Life fare? Well, we want to invite you on this journey to watch and cheer and support and pray as we set about an adventure of transformation. Your support will release a movement towards significant and intentional leadership development for our young generation. Here we are at the beginning. The story is unfolding, and we want you to be a part of it. You may want to laugh at the audacity of such a vision, but when you've seen what we've seen, you'll want to time travel to see the future now. You only have one life. May God bless you as you invest it well. Thank you for listening.